Hey guys, it's Stacy from My Petite Garden. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. This might be my last video of 2022. So since it's the end of the year, I figured why don't we take a look back together at the plants in my collection that have done just so well throughout the year for me. I don't know if it's just me, but maybe it's the same for some of you guys. Throughout the course of a year, I always have this time period where I feel unmotivated to take care of my plants, and I feel just kind of meh about my plants, and it happens every year. It's like for me this year in 2022, I think it was like a period of 3 to 4 months where I was just kind of like, I don't really care for them. They're kind of in the backseat. So these are the plants that even throughout my neglect continue to thrive, continue to be happy, and if they do show signs of stress, they always bounce back for me. And I think I made a similar type of video last year, and I think it's called Resilient Houseplants. Yeah, where I mentioned some of the plants that I neglected during my postpartum period, where it was pretty difficult for me and I wasn't really able to take care of my plants during that time, and some of them really just hung in there. So I just wanted to show some appreciation for them. So I'm going to share some that I want to appreciate this year with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. And let's get to it. So the first plant that I wanted to highlight today is my Ripsalis Pilocarpa. Oh man, this is probably one of the oldest plants that I have in my collection. I will try to put a picture up of it when I first got it, or maybe earlier on this year. It used to be a small little plant. I think it was maybe a few inches long, and now it is just grown into such a quirky beauty. And I honestly don't spend too much time on this plant. I don't give it any special care at all, and you'll find that is the case with most of the plants that I'll be talking about in this video. And that's what I like, you know, like a plant that's no fuss. If it's happy, it's happy. If it's not, it'll let me know. And you'll see this fuzzy little I don't know what you would call this. This is not leaves, is it? It's just little tendrils. I am definitely having a moment with Ripsalises right now. Like, I want to collect them all. The weirder, the better. So I've had it in this little terracotta pot. It's like a 4-inch terracotta pot that I kind of painted myself. It's been a while, like it's been years. It hasn't been repotted. I think it does need a repotting, but I just can't bear to take it out of this pot. So it's still there and it seems to be happy, so I don't want to fuss with it. The next plant I want to talk about is my Discudia Ovada, and this is another one that's just been so carefree for me, and I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you so much. This is what she looks like, and I've cut this back so many times. One thing I haven't done is repot it. It's in a pot in here, and then I had to put it inside a bigger pot without repotting it because I just cannot bring myself to repot this guy. it is so happy where it is that I just don't want to move it. So because it's so top heavy now, I just plopped it into a bigger terracotta so that it doesn't topple over, because it can easily just fall over if I'm not careful. Yeah, so it's just doing so well. You could see over here, it's got this, it's just constantly growing. It doesn't stop, and the foliage is so big. And it's actually going up here that I need to kind of pull it back. Yeah. I do have my grow lights on, so if I shut it off, it's gonna be too dark. So yeah, it's so beautiful. I love it. And you notice the top is red, and that's because it's sunset stresses. So if you give it enough light, it will turn a bright kind of red orange color. I don't know if you can see. Maybe I'll try shutting off the grow lights and see. There you go. So you can kind of see it gets this red tint to it, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Obviously the ones down here, they don't get as much light, so they stay green like a green watermelon. And they're so chunky. Some of these are super chunky. Like, it's juicy, it's thick. And I'll see if I could get a photo of it. When I first got it, it was so tiny. I forgot where I got any of these plants. This is also another one that's been in my collection for many years. Since I started this plant collecting hobby, I think in 2018. So, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna pan out a little bit so you guys can see. The next plant I want to talk about is actually right next to it. This is my Ripsalis Pilocarpa. For a while though, I think last year it didn't do much, but this year was the year it really started taking off. And it's really started growing. You can see it's actively growing right now. You can see these little, how cute is that? There's like 3 of them sticking up there. You can see the one there, there, and they're just adorable when they're growing. And then it has this really thick one. I don't know if you can see, yeah. Like, check out this one. It's like the biggest vine. It's really chunky. And it goes all the way here. And you could see here, it's like branching out like a little claw, like little fingers. It's just so cute when it's growing. I can't stop looking at it. And this is what the chains look like. I think I'm gonna turn back on the grow lights. It's a little dark. Okay, so this is what the chains look like. So I do have the Paradoxa minor, which are smaller chains, but that one hasn't done as well as this one, and I've had this for way longer, so I thought it's time to give a proper highlight on this guy. Maybe next year I'll talk about the minor. And the minor is just one with smaller chains. So at full size, those chains look like this, like babies, like this size. So yeah, I just love this Ripsalis. I mean, mine's not the fullest by any means, but it is what it is, and I love it. It's grown so well, and also it does sun stress too. So if you give it, oh, I feel like I need to shut off the lights again. If you give it enough light, right, it will have this reddish margin to it. I don't know if you guys can see. Probably not. Anyways, yeah. So I don't know. It's just, I love it. It's weird. I love weird plants. Okay. Yeah, a little look over here, a little peek over there. I just still can't get over this little claw here. So yeah. So that's the Ripsalis Paradoxa. Love, love, love it. Turn back on the grow lights. This is the next one I want to talk about. Actually, I'm gonna just take it out. Ooh. This is my Hoya Akuda Red. The reason why I have to feature this one is because you guys know I got a greenhouse this last spring. And I made the rookie mistake of not putting on a shade cloth and not knowing the intensity of the heat that goes on in a greenhouse. And I was testing out putting some plants in there, and this was one of them. And man, it burned really quick. It burned within the first few hours of me putting it in there. The second that afternoon sun started hitting the greenhouse, it burned, and it was a beautiful Hoya. So I was really sad. I thought I was losing this plant for sure. So I did an emergency situation thing where I chopped everything back. I cut off all the sunburnt leaves. It was pretty much down to nothing. I'll see if I have a picture of this before. I don't think I have any photos of it sunburned because I was just in such a rush to like save it. And so I think I took 2 separate cuttings of this and I rooted them separately because I wasn't sure if it was gonna survive or not. So at least I have 2 separate ones. And then I rooted them and started pretty much from a nub. I always end up doing that. And it's just, look at it now. I was down to like 1 or 2 leaves on this thing, and it just grew back like a champ. It never stopped, even after I burned it by accident. I'm so sorry. I love this Hoya. And when you give it enough light, and right now I have it on my south-facing windowsill, and it always stays there. And even on my south-facing window, not a lot of plants can handle that. And if the Hoya is not happy on the south-facing windowsill, it will burn also. But this one, it can withstand the south-facing window even in the height of summer. So that's why I thought maybe I could put it in the greenhouse, but it really just couldn't. It was too much for it. But it does stress really nice red. You can see some of the red on some of the leaves. It's not even red, it turns purple. Like it's a purple color, maroon. It's beautiful. My plant used to be, I think my original plant had like 4 or 5 leaves on it. And they were all like purple like that. So this one is starting to stress a little bit, but because it's winter, I don't think it's really getting that much sunlight. So it's not really stressing that much. But I think once the warmer season comes, it will just turn purple again. But the leaves that it grew back are just beautiful. So let me just put it back. It is so freaking gorgeous. Love this Hoya. That's the newest leaf. Yeah, and it's got another growth point coming out there. So gorgeous. Yeah. Thrived on neglect, even abuse. Because I would consider that plant abuse, honestly. I burned it bad. And oh my goodness. I'm so glad I was able to save it, and that is why I have to highlight this plant. I know I don't talk about this enough. I don't think I've ever really talked about this plant aside from like a houseplant tour or something, so you are such a trooper. The next plant I'm going to talk about needs no introduction. It is my Passiflora Tripasiata. I definitely have to highlight this plant. Just like last year when I neglected it and it bounced back from being cut back all the way, this year it just been doing so well for me, especially with the propagations. I think this is the first year that I actually took cuttings and made a full plant out of its propagations, and I am so in love with it. I am so proud of it, and I'm so happy now that I have a second full plant of this. I honestly think it's doing even better than its original mother plant, so I think I might start taking more propagations from the mother plant and hopefully creating a whole new plant again. And I am absolutely in love with this plant. As you guys know, it's been through a lot with me, and it is my spirit plant, as I've mentioned last year in my resilient houseplant video, and I still consider this my spirit plant for sure. And I will be doing a dedicated video for the Passiflora Tripasiata in the coming new year, so look out for that. I will include care and propagation tips. So yes, definitely a plant that I needed to highlight in this video. So this next plant is my Hoya Bilobata, or some people may say it is a Hoya Ficus Bertoniae. I'm not sure which one it is, but I was sold this plant as a Hoya Bilobata, so that's what I'm going to refer to it as. It has done so well for me, and it has tons and tons of peduncles, as you can see. It blooms very frequently, and it is just such a fuss-free Hoya. So for those of you who are looking for like a Hoya that looks beautiful, grows fast, makes a great hanging basket, this is a great candidate for you. And I honestly have no complaints about this plant. I think the only thing I did have to deal with this year was mealybugs, but I had to deal with mealybugs on a lot of my plants this year, so this was no exception. But despite that, it still continued to do really well. So I am happy to say that this has definitely been a plant that's stuck by me this year through my neglect and everything. So big shout out to it. Okay, so this next plant is my Discudia Jerry, and definitely one that I have talked about quite a bit in terms of easy care. This year, nothing changed. It's been doing really well, as usual. I never really have to worry about this plant. It's one of those that have just been thriving all throughout this whole time that I've had it, and it's still in its nursery pot actually. I've never repotted it, and it's still very happy and growing very well. It's not as sun stressed anymore. I used to have this by my west facing sliding doors, and it got a lot more afternoon sun. Now it's on my east facing window, so it gets morning light. This here is my Discudia lanceolata, or Discudia bengalensis, I think it's also known as. This plant is definitely one of my favorites, as I've mentioned in previous videos, but this is the year that it actually finally started growing a lot. In previous years, it just kind of stayed pretty much stagnant for the most part. If it did put out growth, it was just a little bit here and there, but this year it really just blew up in growth, and it did really well, so hence I am highlighting it in this video. And I absolutely love this Discudia. It's definitely probably my favorite Discudia. It's not everybody's cup of tea for sure, because it is kind of odd looking, but again, I do like the oddballs. This is my Hoya Passiflora, and this is actually a plant that I acquired this year. I think it was early this year, 2022, and I had to include this plant just because of the sheer speed it grew. This is such a fast growing Hoya. I think this might be one of the fastest growing Hoyas that I've ever grown in my collection. I started it with, I think it was like a 4 or 5 leaf cutting. I will insert a picture if I could find it. And it just blew up in growth so quickly. So if you are one that don't have the patience for the normally slow growing Hoyas,
this is definitely a very good option for you if you can get your hands on one. Aside from that, the leaves are, I would consider this a small leafed Hoya, and you guys know I love my small leafed Hoyas, and this definitely fits the bill. It kind of reminds me of like a thicker version of a Hoya retusa. The leaves are very lance-like. It's pretty sharp looking and it's thin, but at the same time it's not as thin as like a Hoya retusa is. So it has some girth to it, but it still maintains its very dainty and cute physique. Aside from that, I think it is also a very easygoing Hoya. I just water it when it's dry. I give it whatever light I can give it, and it never complains. I think this is one that I would not give it too much highlight though, because I do notice that the leaves bleach a little bit. So I would just keep this maybe a little bit further away from the grow light or from like a south-facing window.
Okay, so the last plant that I want to talk about in this video is my Anthurium Polystitchum. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong, but I thought I mentioned this plant because I don't think I've ever really mentioned it before. This plant is probably one of the newer plants that I've mentioned in this video, or the newest actually, but it's really not that new. I've had this for about half a year now. My friend actually picked this up for me, I think in June, around June, yeah, or late May, yeah, something around that. And she picked it up at the orchid show here from Equigenera. So Equigenera was there and she had ordered some plants from them. So she ended up picking this up for me because I was actually looking for this particular Anthurium. I'm not a huge fan of Anthuriums. As you guys know, I don't have any Anthuriums. When I was more into aeroids, like the more rare aeroids, so to speak, I had quite a few Anthuriums, like Forgetii, Clarinervium, those kind. But since I've kind of curated my collection to plants that I can care for in just regular household conditions, I've stopped adding those type of plants to my collection. So this particular Anthurium, it just caught my eye because I really like the umbrella structure. It kind of reminds me of Passiflora. So let me just move this over a little so you can... Oh wow, the sun is just really bright. When she picked this up for me, it was actually, oh my goodness, it was so sad. It was one of the clearance plants. I believe they had like a clearance section where it's just plants that didn't look so happy or healthy. This plant had pretty much no good leaves on it. It had like all yellow leaves. The root system was shot. So it probably just didn't do so well in the import process, but nonetheless, I was like, sure, I'll take it. I'll see what I can do with it. It was cheap. I forgot how much I paid for it, but it wasn't a lot. And this is what it looks like now. It's grown quite bushy. I do find that it does prefer a little bit of humidity, so I keep this inside my taller terrarium. However, it is now reaching the top of it, so I don't really have a plan on what I'm gonna do with it when it outgrows it. It's just gonna have to live outside, so it's gonna just have to be happy with it. One thing I might do is maybe switch it out of terracotta and put it into a plastic or ceramic container vessel. I don't know, I don't grow any plants in ceramic, so it's probably not going to be something I choose to do. So yeah, this is going to be the last mention. I just wanted to give it a little shout out because it has definitely bounced back quite a bit and it's doing much better now. And it's such a beautiful Anthurium. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I know people love those big dark velvety leaves on their Anthuriums, but I think this guy deserves a little shout out too. It's so cute. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if you want to share any of the plants that have done well for you throughout this year, please feel free to do that in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful new year, and as always, thank you so much for all of your support, and I will see you in the next video in the new year. Okay, bye!